Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another AFLW Fantasy Fanatics round review. We are recording on Monday night, the 18th of August, after the completion of round one of the AFLW Fantasy season. I'm your host, Bales, and you can find me at BAILSDT across the socials. And I'm joined by my co-host and fellow AFLW Fantasy Fanatic 2024 Men's AFL Fantasy Classic runner-up is Tom Hales. Tom, mate, how are you? How was your first weekend of AFLW Fantasy for 2025?
Thanks, Bill. Great to be here. Nice for the footy to be back. It was a really good weekend with some really good games. Made some mistakes with my side, but we've got 3 trades a week and a long way to go. So excited to talk some fantasy and talk through some race trades.
Yeah. Well, before we do get into that, I've got a bone to pick with you, my friend, or my British friend. Obviously,
what have I done now?
It was very good of you to jump on the Free Kick Pod. I really enjoyed the Free Kick Pod, drafting a team, but going on another podcast and saying that it is the best AFLW pod by far when you're on an AFLW pod is not a good way to get at my good graces. So, no, I'm only joking. No, we love the Free Kick pod and obviously Liam, Jono, Mel and Will, and it is the best AFLW pod out there. But hopefully we can bring you guys some fun entertainment and hopefully you guys enjoy the ride of me and Tom this year. But no, good to hear you make your Free Kick debut, mate. It was very good listening. But obviously, round one in the books. How did you go? What was your score? Your I was going to say round rank and overall rank, but for round one, your round rank is your overall rank. So how'd you go?
I did okay. So I scored a 12.37. Which is a rank of 36.77, which is fine. Like, I think it's at the lower end of fine, but it's kind of only 100, 150 points from like where I want to be, so it's not the end of the world. Especially when quite a few of my players probably had floor scores, or what I'm hoping are floor scores. So a couple of fix-up trades and hopefully get shooting up the ranks next week.
Yeah, no, solid week, mate. Good enough start. I just got you by 8 points, 12.45 for me. So over rank of 32.22. Not too bad. A few 50-50 calls I made that would have given me probably a 1,300 plus week, which would have been handy to start the week when I think that we'll chat about it. But obviously, scores seem to be quite down. Obviously, only the 4 scores over 120, and Jazz Gunner was the highest on 130. So not too many massive scores. So I guess we'll see what round 2 brings us. But we could have a whole podcast on how the rules and that went this week. All me and Tom agree. Well, what me and Tom not all agree on because we agree on a few extra things. But on what most of AFLW fans and AFLW fantasy fans agree is that the rule changes are shocking. And hopefully that was just a overcorrection and we get a little bit more back to some sort of normality. But if those are the rules going forward, it's going to be a pretty very frustrating watch. But we're going to still tune in anyway because we love our AFL and AFLW. So plus and minus 3 for the week. Well, where are you going?
Before we start that, should we do content creators cut?
No, we'll do that after because we'll go for our first teams.
I apologize. Teething issues, guys. I'm sorry. So my +3, I think, has to go to Montana Ham. Despite the low time on ground, she was absolutely electric. Taking marks, really impressed with her popping up in the D50, taking marks from kick-ins. So around the ground, despite only 59% time on ground, to score 75 in that first week with Gold Coast to come, absolutely fantastic. And if she can keep that up, she's on the way to probably being a top 6 or top 5 forward, which is absolutely fantastic. -3 is a list. I'm probably going
just go one because we'll chat about a few of them in
100%
time.
And you know what I'm going to go with a player who I think is in everybody's team. And is Bonnie too good?
Hmm.
She was Bonnie not very good. Kicking 2 goals to get 42. It's pretty pathetic, if I'm honest. Like, especially in a game which Essendon won comfortably, and a lot of the ball was in that forward 50 for Essendon. I didn't like her role. It was quite deep forward. She wasn't getting up the ground. Like, priced as cheaply as she is, I think it's fine, and I'm not worried yet, especially with a fairly winnable game against the Eagles this week. I'm definitely not trading her out, but it's just a little flag that she might not be as good as what we thought or what we hoped she would be.
Yeah. I think that's a little harsh -3, but hey, you want to send a message round one.
I'm
You're
saying
like, no, not taking these boys because
42 is my second lowest on field score. So,
yeah.
like,
Well, she was well, not actually, to be fair, she was probably her Stannard and Tonnen were very similar in terms of scores. But to be fair, Bonnie Toogood only had 51% time on ground, and she went off a HIA for a fair while. So, but the role, I guess, is not what you like. So, but hopefully against West Coast, she goes well. But even if she gets a 70 or so, I think that in the forward line this year will be fine enough. My +3, there's two that I want to give it to, but I feel like we're going to talk about one of them at least when we get to that game. So I'm actually going to go for Jess Wrench. I'm really happy with her at D5. The role was great. She was tackling like fantastic. 12 tackles was great. Even 4 frees against as well. So the fact that she still saw a 75 with 4 frees against, that could she get to a couple of 80s this year? And the fact that she matched Charlie Thomas when I wanted to start Thomas and I end up not going there. It turned out to be okay with Serene Watson nearly matching Charlie Thomas's price in 3/4. I'm sure we'll chat about her when we get a little bit later on. But no, Jess Wrench, got to get the +3 to someone that was a rookie priced and putting up essentially a premium defender score. -3, there are a few certainly very, very unlucky players that aren't going to get the -3, but I think I've got to go with Matilda Schultz. Over 900K, I was so tempted to go her down to a Courtney Murphy and just bank a whole heap of cash to get some of these players that we're going to be wanting to bring in this week, or we have to bring in this week. And based on the stats, it's not awful. She had 12 touches, along with 25 hit-outs, had 1 mark, 1 tackle, which is obviously where you want your rucks. You get a few marks, a few tackles. But the 5 free kicks against is an issue. And Matilda Schultz did this a few times last year where she'd give a number of free kicks away, and it was frustrating. And she was better in the hit-out department than a Mim Strom. The only difference is Mim Strom is an absolute gun, and Matilda Schultz is a gun. So I probably should say they're both guns. The difference being is Matilda Schultz didn't do as much around the ground as what Mim Strom does. And Mim Strom is clearly going to be the number 1 ruck, I think, again. And but ruck scoring was down once again, unfortunately, there. So hopefully Matilda Schultz can have a better showing if I keep her, because there is a chance that I do trade. But we will get into the Content Creators Cup recap from round 1. So I know why Tom wanted to go straight into that, because Tom got a win in round 1. How did you go, and who were you up against?
Yeah, so I played against Liam from the Free Kick Pod, and I had a nice narrow. No, I was in Eloise. You were against Liam. I was in Eloise. I won 12.37 against 11.99, so a nice little 38-point win. Nice way to start. Always nice to start with a win in some league matchups. So, yeah. How did you go, Bells?
Yeah, I got a win as well. So Liam scored the exact same as Eloise with 11.99, and I got the 12.45. So really happy to start off with a win after what I thought was a tough round. But looking here, only 2. I was the 3rd highest scorer. No, hang on, 4th highest scorer in the league this week, I reckon. Yeah, 4th. 4th behind a few coach, which we'll get to. But yeah, so JS and Jackson, and for anyone that knows the duo from Sliding Doors, they do a lot of the similar things in terms of fantasy, and they have the exact same team. So they drew 12.40 each. So I wonder when they're going to differentiate their team, because it is quite funny seeing the same score and the same players in their teams. Jaiden got a win, 12-30 over Mel from free kick with 11.85. And also shout out to Jaiden, obviously getting married on the weekend and on his honeymoon. So shout out to one of our fantasy fanatics, Jaiden, on a very, very big weekend for him there. Will got unfortunately went down to someone that started very, very well in Jake from Hat Chat with a 13.45 for Jake. And Will had a 12.67, which was the third highest score in the league. So unfortunately, Will, the unlucky coach for the week, scoring well. But Jake had a belter of a week, ranked 143rd to start for the donut. So let's see how Jake goes moving forward. And Jono went down to DC, who had another big week as well, 13.15 for DC, second highest score in the league, and Jono with a 12.28, which seemed like around that sort of 12.30-ish sort of score was around that sort of what a lot of the content creators did this week. So some good scores there. And as I said, Jake leading the way for overranking on 143rd. And I thought we'd also, I'll be able to recap after. I probably should have done this before we started recording. But obviously, we have the AFLW Fantasy Fanatics Open League, and we just shout out to everyone. We do have over 950 coaches in the Open League. So thanks, everyone, for joining in. And you can still join in. I've shared the code everywhere, the invite link. But for anyone that still does want to join, I won't. This will probably be last week. I'll repeat the code on the podcast. So if you want to join after, then you can go to the link. But the code is BI1H5QVS. So it's BI1H5QVS. So that is the code there. Interesting that BI being my initials is the start of the league code. So I don't know if that's deliberate or if that's just coincidence, but there you go. So I do want to quickly just, I will have this prepared next week, obviously, as Tom said.
I can give a shout out to the person who is number one. So I have it up in front of me. So leading the way is Tim's team, Girls on Film, with a 13.92 to be ranked 9th overall.
Very good score.
Absolutely. And that includes a 24 in the ruck from Taylor Gregory.
Exactly.
Absolutely wild week.
So there you go. So I'm just having a look. And as I said, I will have this prepared for next week. But I wanted to see how many coaches we have in the top 100. So we have got 12 coaches currently inside the top 100. Obviously, you shared that Tim there, who is currently first in the league, but 12 coaches who are currently inside the top 100 there, and there are a number of coaches that are just outside. So a good start for a few of the legends in the AFLW Fantasy Fanatics League. So congrats to you guys on a good start. So we're going to go run through the games, and we're going to do, I guess, give a +3 and a -3 for each game, or stud and dud from each game. But me and Tom thought we'd call it out to you guys listening in or watching in. Give us some ideas for what you think you'd like to do, because obviously the Ball Boys have got Bogs and Flogs, which I love, but I don't want to get done for copyright from Ball Boys HQ. So we'd like to go for a different name. So any suggestions you guys have, comment them on YouTube below in the comment section. Let us know what you guys would like to be called, and we'll pick one next week, and we'll go with that from now on, and we'll give you a shout out next week if you come up with a name that me and Tom like. So get it in the comments. Let us know what you guys would like to hear at the sim call. But we're going to call it + and -3. It's probably just a little bit boring, or stud and dud of the week, whatever we want to go with Tom there. So what would you like to go with, Tom, for this week? You can choose.
We'll go with stud and dud. It sounds great in my accent, so.
Cool. We'll stick with that. So we'll go stud and dud of the week. But if you guys would like that or a different name, let us know in the comments. Cool. Well, let's get started, and we'll start off all the way back on Thursday night with the double header, and we'll start off with the first game of the season, which was Carlton and Collingwood, with Carlton getting the job done by 24 points. And I'll be taking the studs for the week, and Tom will be taking the duds of the week. So I'll go with the stud from this game. And the stud for me, I think it's got to go to Britt Benici with 128 points. Was very, very good in this game. 21 disposals, 15 tackles was really, really good to see as well. Also, special shout to Mimi Hill as well for scoring a 108 with a very, very good score there. So your dud from this game.
I think I've got to give it, and I find it harsh giving it to a rookie, But it's a rookie who's coming with big reps. With
Oh,
a
no.
lot of us have her in our side. She's very good at bouncing a ball between her legs.
That
But
was something.
that was
That was
elite.
brilliant.
It was elite. Ash Centra with 22 with only 3 touches. It's not quite what we expected or what we wanted. And I think she could be a big topic of conversation about whether we keep her going forward or whether we jump off this week.
Yeah, exactly. Now, not a great score, and obviously the roll was bad. But I'll tell you what, if for those people that are out there saying the AFLW is like it's not getting better, I'll tell you what, just watch when Ash Century gets the ball. It is like her Zippy
She's so
Fish, like the
silky.
Zippy Fish, Lucia Painter, like all these new rookies coming in look incredible. And we're 10 years in, so these girls have all been like 8, 9, 10 and have played football all the way through. And it's fantastic to see these young players coming in and looking great from the get-go. So AFLW is only getting bigger and better each year. And for sure, the rules this year may be frustrating, but the players coming in are certainly not. And so shout out to Ash Centra for looking very good with the limited touches that we did see. So that'll be a topic of conversation for if we trade or hold. I think Darcy Vesey, I think they were pretty lucky not to get dud of the week, but we will chat about them when we get to who we're going to be trading out and trading in. Moving over to West Coast and Gold Coast. West Coast getting the job done by 15 points. And, I've got to give this to 3 players. And I've got to give the shout outs to 2 rookies because I've got to give it to the main player from this game. But the shout outs go to Lucia Painter and Havana Harris, looking incredible. Again, 2 rookies coming in and looking amazing from the first game they played. But the stud has got to go to Ella Roberts. She is an absolute gun. 2 goals, 2 with 24 touches, 8 marks, 118, was getting disposals on one leg when she was cramping late in that last quarter. She did everything. She was everywhere. That first quarter had 60 points. There were a multitude of players that didn't even hit half that this week. And she scored 60 and a quarter and looked amazing. Ella Roberts, very, very good score there. Obviously, I already shouted out Jess Wrench as well as my other +3. So shout out to Jess Wrench for a good score. Dud of the week. Well,
This feels
not the week.
Yeah, this feels really weird. I'm going to give my dud for this game to the 5th highest scoring player in the game.
Yeah, I thought you might go here. Yep.
In Charlie Rowbottom. She scored 78.
74.
When we get 74. Still 78.
Sorry, 78. She must have got a +4. Okay, there you go.
She scored 78. As a premium priced well over 100, that's just not good enough, especially when she's been outscored by rookies such as Painter and Fish. I think she could, especially for teams with very strong midfields, I think she could possibly be a trade this week just due to the amount of cash that she's going to lose when we're using up that valuable midfield slot. No real marks. Was he a few frees against?
Yeah.
4 frees against. 4 frees against, which a 90 would sound a lot better. Just kind of all the stat lines were a little bit down on what we know Charlie Rowbottom can do. Just a slow start. And if we didn't have these rookies popping, maybe you could hold, but I would probably be looking to trade if I owned her.
Yep, no, definitely a topic that we'll be touching on, I'm sure, when we chat about some more players later on. Moving over to Friday night footy, and that was Sydney and Richmond. Sydney winning by 20 points. And the second highest score in this game has got to be the stud from this game, and that is Zippy Fish. Wow, what a debut. I think equal for most disposals in a first game on debut. So 97 points with 26 disposals. And you look at her time on ground and you'll go, 88%, that's pretty solid. She didn't come off until about 5 minutes to go in the last quarter. She played 100% game time for the first 3 quarters, which is outrageous. And if she's got this role and that type of time on ground, yeah, she could be very, very good on field. So there, but also honorable mention to Mon Conti as well for a 112. Again, she played 100% time on ground. So that's going to be something moving forward. That could be a player of interest in the midfield to be looking at, even though she may cop some attention in games. Stud from the game.
I find this hard, but I think I'm going to give it kind of half and half to 2 players. Half to Lucy McAvoy and half to Ali Morfitt. Ali Morfitt got off to an amazing start. She was on 20 points in a matter of minutes, had a 25-point first quarter, but then only managed 32 points for the remainder of the game for a 57. The curse of the low-scoring rucks really hit. And she will have lost cash this week, and that's just not quite up to it. And Lucy McAvoy, premium defender, role wasn't quite there, kind of got thrown around again. Only 9 disposals for a 47. I think she's a must trade if you own her. Just underwhelming scores in a game which Sydney were fairly dominant throughout. Just not the start you want if we started those players.
Yeah, exactly. Also, Laura Gardner was similar, but obviously put up a 90. But looking here, 65 points in the first and fourth quarter. Had 30 points combined in the second and third quarters. So that really took away from the ceiling. But I think from what we saw with the game styles and the rule change and that, I think that Laura Gardner will be someone that's fine, along with another North Melbourne mid, which in Ash Riddell, who had a similar score there. I think these transition mids are going to be fine. Just a lower score, I think, with the first game. We don't typically see, even in the men's fantasy, the round 1 scores aren't massive, even for the premiers, right? It's more when we get into rounds 2, 3, 4, 5, we start seeing these big scores. So I wouldn't be panicking too much with some players, but obviously some other players we will be a little bit more worried about. Moving over to the Saturday games, we'll start off with Geelong and North Melbourne. Geelong winning by 30 points, but it was a close game for 3 quarters, but North Melbourne put the foot down the final quarter. And I think, again, there's 2 players here that I'll chat about. I'll give the honourable mention to Jazz Garner, and it feels weird because I'm saying honourable mention to the highest scoring player of the week. But we know how good Jazz Garner is. We know Garner does this pretty much every week, right? So I feel like she'll get plenty of airtime from us, and she's obviously one of the best players, if not the best player in the comp. But I've got to give the stud from this game to Georgie Prasparkas. So her first quarter, I think we were worried. In group chats and everything, we were worried. She's on 10 points at quarter time. We thought, okay, this is not great. She scored 92 points after quarter time, which is incredible when we're talking about the scores being down and the fact that she was priced under $1 million. She's now over $1 million and looked fantastic. So back to some really good form, and could be a trade in Tade if you did not start with her. Your dud from this game.
Once again, I find it hard to split 2 premium forwards who were at very least in the top 10 averaging forwards from last season in Ash Maloney and Alice O'Loughlin, scoring a 46 and a 45 respectively. Just not. I know for Ash Maloney, the game wasn't particularly conducive to key forwards, so I kind of give her a pass in a very hard matchup against the reigning premiers. Alice O'Loughlin, though, was just
Did play very preseason games as well, so nearly.
Did play it's a very nearly game for her. She was kind of around the ball, but didn't really get going, and to put up such a low under 50 score is a little bit disappointing. First hit out, but hopefully that builds her fitness and allows her to improve as the season goes on.
Yeah, exactly.
Might be a trader an option.
Yeah, exactly. Moving to GWS and Essendon, with Essendon getting a big win, 56 points over GWS. And honorable mention to Jean Anscorn for, again, just putting up another solid score. Always sort of, I guess, not disrespected, but not probably talked about as much, but just continues to put out solid scores every week, along with Maddie Prasparkas with a 9-9 there as well. But I'm actually going to give my best on ground to someone that's probably going to be a decent trade-in target this week, particularly if we hear Elise Parker's injury is, if it's going to be worse than what we think. And that's Zali Goldsworthy. And a lot of us faded, myself included, Tom included. We all faded because we thought, okay, the role's going to be deep forward. And we did see that at times, right? But if Elise Parker's going to be out, I think that midfield time is going to be clearly bumped up. I believe I didn't get to watch a huge amount of the back end of this game when Elise Parker got injured. I was walking into Adelaide Oval for the Crows Collingwood men's game. So maybe, Tom, I don't know if you saw this game and you can speak on it, or if we both had to go back and watch highlights. But did that role shift after Elise Parker went down?
So after Elise Parker went down, she moved up the ground on ball, which was absolutely... that's why her scoring improved massively. She went around the ball, started tackling, and it really, really helped Goldsworthy's scoring. So that was a very, very good to see. We just have to watch to see who gets brought in for Parker.
I think Taylor Levy's the obvious one.
Yeah.
Emergency last week comes in.
So we need to... I'm still a little bit hesitant, and I don't think she's going to get away from us price-wise. So I kind of want to see one more, just to see if that role is real.
Collingwood's good matchup. I think could be a beneficial one first up.
One thing.
But then Adelaide, so.
But Parker has been ruled out for the season, though. So.
That's the first. I probably missed it. I've been at work all day and that. So out for the season. Wow.
I've seen it in a group chat we'd had, but I just thought I'd do my own research on the fly, and she's out for the season with a
what was the
foot?
Oh, geez,
that's broken foot, so she's out for the season. So
you feel for any player getting an injury, right? But particularly the players that do it pre-season or round one, it's like you work so hard and get ready and. She started well, really good, Elise Parker, and very, very unfortunate. She had obviously thoughts with Piggy Parker.
Yeah. So hope get well soon. Hope speedy recovery. But if the switch to do is put Goldsworthy into the midfield, then I think it's someone we're all going to want, because she's going to be probably the F1 this year. So, but for me, I kind of want to watch one more.
Yeah. I think early trades for me, which we'll get into, she could be someone that I'll be potentially looking at there. But yes, no, very, very unfortunate with the injury. But you're dud.
Shout out a few. I'm going to give it.
It's not really a shout out because.
I mentioned a bit on Bonnie Too Good earlier. Slightly disappointing score this week. I'm just going to kind of semi-give it to two cheaper players who might started in Ellie Brown and Grace Kosh. Not the scoring we were looking for. We were 27 for Brown and 20 for Kosh. I think that role's only going to get worse for Kosh. I think that could be a trade, or she's going to be stuck at. I don't see much cash gen there. With Eilish O'Dowd playing, and her role and her just general play around the ground wasn't particularly impressive this week. So I want to give it to Grace Kosh, which is pretty harsh on a rookie in her first game of AFLW footy. But this is a dog-eat-dog world, and if we've only got 21 precious spots in our squads, and I think 20 points is, including 13 hit outs, is quite disappointing.
Yeah, exactly. Moving over to the Saturday night game, that was the Dogs and Melbourne. Melbourne by 48 points, and I feel like I've probably got to give this to three players, which I want to more keep it to one, but Tyler Hanks and Liv Purcell both scoring over 120 in the top four scorers of the week, and also Shelley Heath, who was a bit of a pod defender. Play that I had on Saturday morning that I changed. I had Bree Conan for most of preseason, right? So I'm not going to complain. It was just, I had Bree Conan there, and if Heath went a 60 and Bree Conan went 100, I'd be happy, right? So it's just the way fantasy works. But sometimes I can get down the dunce when I see a big score, as people in group chats very well know. But yeah, no, I will give officially to Liv Purcell for 123, but yeah, honorable mention to Hanks and Shelley Heath there with hundreds. And also Edmonds and Georgia Stathis had pretty good games as well, 91 and 87 respectively. But your dud from this game?
Someone who I think a lot of us may have had in our teams last season. Had a bit of an instructive pre-season, but it's Izzy Pritchard with a 47. In that kind of next generation of midfielders who might be looking to take a step up into the premium ranks, just throwing a 47 out to start the year is very disappointing. I know instructive pre-season was in doubt to even play the game, so there is reasons why. But for someone who you're kind of looking, can you become a fantasy premium? Can you be that next generation of Marinoffs and Riddells and Garners? Just can't be dropping 47s on our heads.
Yeah. Hopefully, can work back to some sort of match fitness and get building into the season. But yeah, not a huge start for Izzy Pritchard, unfortunately. There. Moving to the Sunday games, and Brisbane going down to Hawthorn by 4 points. And the fact that Brisbane got within 4 points, to be fair, I think, again, didn't get to see this game, but people saying Brisbane not looking as good as what they have done, and they got within 4 of Hawthorn, so not too bad. But I'm going to give the best on ground, sort of some like decent enough scores here. I'll go Jade Ellinger for the stud of the week. Sorry, stud of the game, I should say, from here. 78 points, very solid score for a defender. And you'd be pretty happy if you went for Jade Ellinger in your defense. And your dud from this game?
I'm going to give it to Sophie Conway, who was the lowest priced at over nearly $1.1 million. So a similar price like the Ella Roberts, who scored 118. She scored 16 fantasy points. 16! 1-6. Yeah. I think her role wasn't great, but she went down 214k this week.
Oh no, she played 79% time on ground as well, so it's not even a low time on ground each year. Wow. Yeah. That is certainly not what you want if you started with her. Also, I just saw Brie Conan 98% time on ground. That's nice to see, which is good. Moving to the unfortunate result from my standpoint from the weekend, St Kilda beating the Crows. I'm a little bit nervous about the Crowies in the AFLW this year. They've lost a couple of pracky games in the first round, so hopefully get back to some good form. I'm going to give the stud from this game to Georgia Patrikios for 89 points. Really solid score for someone that was priced, I believe, in the high 50s, low 60s, if I'm not mistaken. She was priced at just under 700k and put up a really nice score, matching a few of the premiums there. 26 disposals was very, very good there. But also, I'm going to give a shout out to Serene Watson, who 72 as a premium defender is not too bad, right? It's a solid score. But the fact that she had a 0-point second quarter and had 72 points, that was good. If she can do that and over 4 quarters and get into the 90s, that'd be great. So, but yeah, special shout out to Serene Watson for a solid score. And Noffy just doing Noffy things for a 113, which obviously, if you didn't start Noffy, not too bad if you did go for the Noffy-less team strategy for fantasy this season. And your dud of this game?
I'm kind of torn between two, and there's quite a discrepancy between the two scores. Actually, I'm actually going to give it to Anne Hatchard, who only scored a 61 as a perennial top 10 midfielder for the last. I mean, I think 2 or 3 years ago she was a top 5 midfielder.
Had 2 hit-outs.
Yeah, to only have 13 touches, playing forward time. To only score 61 is extremely poor. I know they got beat in this game, but is St Kilda a game that a decent matchup that the Crows are expected to try and win? I just want to shout out to kind of star of the comp, Daniel Ponte, who scored 14.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. 14.
as someone who has scored big in the past, priced over 700k at the start of the year, to score 14 means she's going to be a target soon.
Yeah, probably in the forward line. Yeah, yep.
Yeah, that's where everyone's going to have it. But yeah, dropping 14s is. There's some big names dropping some very, very poor scores, and it's almost good to see that the next generation are coming through and making these more established players actually work for their disposals and an influence on the game.
Yeah, exactly. The other shout out I probably should have given was to India Rashid, who made her debut for the Crows and looked pretty good and scored a 71. So could be a target there. But a third quarter, 34 points with 5 marks. So really, really good to see there from India in her first game for the Crows. And moving to the final game, which was Port Adelaide and Freo, with Freo getting the job done by 22 points. And they took I don't know if you saw this, Tom. They took their time champion data updating these stats from this game. It was like probably an hour and a half, 2 hours after the game where they actually updated this game's stats. But I keep saying best on ground. The stud of this game, it is almost like he never left, and we love it. Kiara Bowers just doing Bowers things. It was great to watch. 22 disposals and 13 tackles. And screw champion data for taking away another tackle post game. And when it was 14 tackles, but 114 was great. It was in the top sort of few high scorers of the week, and yeah, obviously was very cheap to start the year. And I was a little bit worried to an extent early in the second quarter. Was a bit quiet, and I thought, oh, geez, I wonder if this is going to be the way to maybe put Zippy Fish on field as someone that went premium mids. But I was like, I still have faith that Bowers can get it done. And she went bang. So, Bowers. And also shout out to Mimstrom as well for a 105 and going pretty well there with 10 tackles. For you, your dud from this game.
I'm going to give it to someone who I think every content creator across the land has said was an absolute lock to start the season. And that's Ange Stannett. She scored 44 with 2 goals and only 9 disposals. Only 2 tackles. I didn't unfortunately get to watch this game. Unfortunately, I was at work. But I'm assuming some forward time. That is extremely worrying that she's needing 2 goals to get to 44. Without those goals, that's a 20-odd. And that's worrying, especially paying up that price. And it's Brisbane this week. He'll be looking to bounce back after a disappointing loss to Hawthorn. I'm a little bit worried for Ange Stannett and her long-term place in Pom United. Yeah.
Some we will chat about shortly. Also, just quickly, I don't know if you saw the time on ground just for the first quarter for 3 relevant fantasy players. Ella Heads, 49%. Ash McCarthy, 46%. And Stannett, first quarter time on ground, 33%. That is, not great. We don't want to be seeing our players get stuck on the bench. And also, obviously, you mentioned dud from the game, but Sinead Goody didn't have a very good game either. Only 23 points. So, not too great. If you
Sinead Goody, I think Sinead Goody's so talented. I don't know why they penciled her to play this outside role. I don't wing or just put her in the gut. She's a great contested ball winner, but they persist with making her play outside. I don't quite understand.
Yeah, we'll have to see when that eventuates, because I'm sure it will eventually, but hopefully in the near future. But yeah, so Tom, let's get into our what we're going to be doing with trades this week, because we've got 3 trades in AFLW Fantasy, which is great. We love with the 3 trades the men's game having during the buys, and we get them every round this season. So looking forward to that. But I feel like, Tom, as I said in a group chat that we're in, I feel like can we borrow a wild card from, if anyone familiar with Fantasy Premier League, you get 2 a year where you can activate this thing called a wild card and you can make unlimited trades. I feel like I would love that this week, because there are a lot of issues we got to fix up and a lot of players we need to bring in and players we need to trade out. So I guess we'll just go through. where do you want to start? Trade-ins or trade-outs? You're in trade-ins we'll start off with, or trade-outs?
Yeah, I just want to say, just as a general point, as you're going to see, AFLW Fantasy differs from the men with just how quickly these prices change.
Yeah, you
For
got to be
example,
quick,
like
got to jump on.
Zippy Fish has gone up nearly 200k from that 90 odd that she scored for Sydney. So I think this game rewards being brave and being bold, and then also knowing when you've missed a player.
Yeah.
Because one bad score and that cash gen just gets absolutely halted. So knowing when to fade a person who's done well is very, very important. But we can do some trade-ins.
Yeah,
Trading
exactly.
targets.
We'll start off with the trade-ins, and normally we'll go line by line, but I feel like there's a couple of players that we just have to chat about right off the bat that I think me and Tom would agree are not must-haves, but a borderline. Like you would really like to get these players in your side.
Yeah.
And the first one we'll start off with. So, and I think it goes without saying, if you don't have Zippy Fish, grab Zippy Fish. I'm sure you all started with her that are listening in. If you didn't start with Zippy Fish, you have to go and get her. Just go out and get Zippy Fish in your side. And Jess Wrench being another very popular defender rookie. If you don't have Jess Wrench, she's also a very, very good target. But I think the first one we've got to start off with is Lucia Painter. Friday night had like a Murphy Reed-esque burst in the third quarter with 3 quick goals and scored 95 points, 94% time on ground. Yes, it was against Gold Coast over at their home ground. They got Essendon this week, but she went up 182K. She is 578K. And I really think the only way you can bring her in is by, and this probably links a little bit of the trade out thing. So we'll talk about this because this I think is a big thing that coaches are trying to do this week. Is going Ash Centra up to her. And I'm talking for those coaches that have got a lot of coaches did go for premium mids, like at least a Patricios M5, if not a Georgie Prasparkas M5. If you went maybe a Zippy Fish on field, you got Centra on the bench and someone else in utility, it might be a little bit easier. It might be Centra and someone else. But I think that the topic is Centra up to Lucia Painter, right? So you're going to need yourself essentially 200K. Or is it? Yeah, 200K. 194 if you want to be exact, right? But 200K to get Ash Centra up. Not a great role for Ash Centra on the weekend, as we mentioned. A lot of forward time, but looked amazing when she got the ball. You sort of think that's going to ramp up getting forward. But as you said, you got to make really, really quick decisions in AFLW Fantasy. Is this a high priority that you think we need to be jumping on?
Yeah, we have 7, including the utility spots for midfielders. And they are so critical. If Ash Centra was a forward, they've actually played forward, I would be like, just hold. Let's just hold. She's gonna come good. But I think the fact she's occupying a midfield spot or the utility spot, which we can use on these players who will have super low break evens. I'm very annoyed with AFLW Fantasy. We don't have easy access to break evens. It's very annoying. But I can imagine for Painter, for Fish,
right? We know it's going to be
negative. It's going to be heavily negative.
Painter will be over 700K next week.
Yeah, Bascaran had a great game. All these kind of cheaper players. Iran Fitzpatrick is another one who's a little bit cheaper. I think you've got to be making cash. But for people like Painter, this is the last week you can get her. Next week she'll be too expensive. She'll be way over 600K, maybe even over 700K, and by that point she's mid-priced. So it's this week or never. Yes, it is a lot of money to have on the bench, but she's going to repay you with cash gen. And Centra might make another appearance in our sides in a couple of weeks' time if the role switch is a downgrade option. I think that has to be a trade out. It's just how are we getting the cash is the next conversation.
Yeah, I think you've probably got to do that trade, Centra to Painter. Then you got to find that 190K and go downgrade, then maybe do another fix-up trade somewhere else. But like Payne's going to be, as I said, over 700K next week. Even if she scores a 50 or a 40, it doesn't go anywhere near as well as what she did in round one, and we trade her out in 2 weeks' time, she's going to be probably close to 800, if not over 800K. And if our centre turns it around in next week or the week after, she'll still be about 400, 450K because she's not going to rapidly increase because her break-in will be higher. So you can make yourself potentially 400K in 2 weeks' time just by doing this, paying up 194K this week. You might be able to get yourself 400K, well, a couple hundred K at least back on top of that. So you'll be able to make profit off of it. So I think that you've got to be doing it there. So yeah, but you mentioned Ryan Fitzpatrick, who had a very good game, but I think for non-owners, probably a bit of a sigh of relief that she had a bit of a quiet last quarter.
Yeah.
Do you think that is Painter just the one you got to go for? Or do you think if you don't have the cash to make it work, but your trades work really well by getting Fitzpatrick, you can settle for Fitzpatrick instead?
I think you can. Fitzpatrick's role was great. They both Painter and Fitzpatrick didn't have midfield roles. They both had half forward roles. Fitzpatrick was playing so high around stoppage that I think she's going to be able to score long term. Not saying Painter won't. 95 is amazing. And I'm going there. I want to go there myself, given the option. But if to make your trades work, you have to take a call and go someone slightly cheaper, then you can definitely go for Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, agreed. Obviously, another big rookie performer from the first week was Havana Harris. She looked incredible. Again, just a unicorn, but in the AFLW, looked great. West Coast was a decent enough matchup, but she was getting up the ground. She was getting involved. And again, the stat line looks solid, right? Okay, she only had the one hit out, but again, 16 disposals, 6 marks, 4 tackles, kicked 1 goal, 2, and got Sydney this week. She's 573K, is a move of a Matilda Schultz or another ruckman that failed in week 1, as you mentioned, like an Ali Morfitt, is one of those rucks down to Havana Harris and going with Harris and Dunlop as your 2 rucks, a play moving forward? Or do you think it's a bit risky playing Havana Harris at R1, at least in the short term? But the ruck scoring's down, as we saw on the weekend. Only Mim Strom, I believe, was the only ton. Edmonds went 91. Bree, Harrington, and Havana Harris obviously over 80, but then everyone else under 70.
I think it is a huge risk. Like Havana Harris is playing as a forward. She's not playing around the ball. West Coast are not the best side, but I think you can do it if you're using that cash to improve your side. I think it is a point hit to do it. But if that gains you enough cash, because from Schultz it's only 280K, which seems wild. It was 500K last week, and it's 280K this week.
It's
like if that gains you enough cash to do what you want to do, you definitely can do it. Another way to gain cash, possibly, or a place to use cash, is what's your thoughts on trading someone like Ange Stannett out of our forward line?
Yeah, we'll skipping ahead here to trade out.
Sorry, I'm kind of going everywhere. Sorry.
We'll touch on Ange Stannett just in 2 cents. I just think is there anyone else from any other position that you would be looking at as a trade-in target? So I think for those that didn't jump on George,
I think if you're looking at a cheaper forward, I think Berg from North Melbourne is a really good cheaper forward option. I think she's like 370K. She went up 70K in a toughish matchup against Geelong. Came across
Port this week.
Got Port this week. Came across really well around the ground. Wasn't just the 2 goals she scored. She's had a great time on ground, and that's something that I would always say to look at if you're with the players you're bringing in is, do they have decent time on ground? One thing about AFLW more than the men's is some of the time on grounds can be extremely low, especially for some of the rookies. So Berg had, I think, 88% time on ground, which is absolutely fantastic. So that's a cheaper forward option. And a cheaper defensive option, someone that I started and many people may have, but I think it'd be quite good as a cheaper option, is Beck Ott. At 407k, went up to 63k, did pretty well in the ruck. Might be a slightly slower burn than someone like a Zippy Fish or a Painter, but as someone accessible as maybe a sidewaysy kind of trade from a failed rookie pick, he's definitely someone to be looking at. Really like the role, really good win for St Kilda. Hopefully means her position in the side is more secure after round one.
Yeah. Just also seeing here as well, looking at obviously similar price forwards around that 500k mark. Daniel Ponta down to 567k, went down 124k. So you mentioned he could be an option to be bringing in.
Like, I honestly, and that's how AFLW goes. You got we're gonna get some players who are big scorers in previous weeks, very cheap. If you have one bad game, your price plummets.
You know,
if you have one good game, it flies up.
Less than 100k between even like a Brooke Tonnen and Daniel Ponta, which is crazy because we was looking at Ponta as that, like, you weren't starting her probably, but one of those players that
upgrade
is going to be around the top forwards, and that's less than 100k from Brooke Tonnen, who was a solid starting sort of cheaper option there. So that's, as you say, Tom, it's something to be looking at. Anyone else? I think Georgie Prasparkas, for those that are looking to maybe spend up a tiny bit in the mids. I don't know if many teams are doing that this week. Probably a lot of people are going to a Painter, a Zippy Fish if you didn't start it. Maybe it's a Fitzpatrick. But if you're looking for someone a little bit more expensive, you're looking to upgrade, Georgie Prasparkas looked great. I think if you wanted to target her, you definitely could. She's $1.019 million now, but looked great. And certainly someone that you could look at there. But yeah, as you mentioned, Tom, that
Georgia Patrikios is another option.
Yep. Look good against Crows, obviously 89.
If you had, say, row bottom and you want to go down from row bottom to a cheaper mid, changing your structure and gaining a whole bucket load of cash, looks really good. Did George Patrikios, really good scoring round one against a tough opponent in the Crows. I definitely think you could do worse than that. I might be tempted to go all the way down from that, though, to a rookie. I think we've got some fantastic mid rookies if you're going to trade a midfielder. But that's definitely another option.
Yeah, and I'm just looking here as well, like the midfielders in terms of price decrease. Marinoff down 117k, still $1.761 million. But Rowbottom down 100k, McCarthy down about 100k, Ali Anderson down 118k. And Hatchard down 120k, Ellie Blackburn down 118k. Obviously, we know Elise Park obviously wrote for the season, but down 173k after the injury-affected game. A lot of players here going down a lot of money, premium midfielders after the first week. So something to definitely be keeping an eye on with some of these cheaper players going down. Also, some of the expensive players getting cheaper and to be looking at there. I think that's probably it for most of the trade types. I think there's probably a couple we might have missed out on. I'll quickly skim through to see if we did miss any, but we will discuss trade outs.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that Anne Stannett is going her down to a Bogue, for example, and maybe fielding a Bogue to get you the cash to go and get a Painter. And even if you wanted to go a Piper Dunlop up to Harris on the bench, is that something that you're considering this week? Because we obviously not a great score from Anne Stannett. First game back from an injury, but if the role's not going to be what we were hoping for, is she a trade out for you?
Yeah. I think I've got one of my big decisions this week is I want to trade out Stannett. Is it going down, as you say, to a Bogue, or is it going up to a Goldsworthy? Am I trying to find lots of money from somewhere, maybe trading a midfielder, trading a big midfielder down to a rookie, and that which allows me to do that trade comfortably and still fix Centra as well. That's certainly an option that I'm running through. But I definitely think if Stannett's not playing big time on ground and playing forward, I'm not keen on having that much money and just losing that cash, especially this early in the season. I can get a rookie to score a 45 or a 50, so that's the way I'm kind of thinking with my trades. I'm kind of happy with my defenders. Shelley Heath is one who did very, very well with a great midfield role. So if you're in the market for a premium defender, she's definitely a good option.
It's crazy. She was under 700K last week, and now she's over 800. So as you say, that 1 week, big score, bang, like almost like for a lot of coaches, maybe just out of reach. Maybe they're just like, well, I can't pay 100K at the moment for a defender. So it's crazy, right? So
yeah, I don't think there's any premium defenders who really are worth, I would say, trading for trade outs. I think we're kind of happy-ish with all our defenders. If you have say an Ellie Brown on field, that's just maybe someone you might just hold and just field wrench.
Yeah.
Or if you have both of them on field, you might trade that to an Ott, or even put an Ott on field. Yeah. What's your thoughts on the Schultz / Morfitt / Wales down to Havana Harris?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, right? And I think for I'll go with Morfitt first, right? Because she's more expensive, right? So I think this is a little bit more interesting because you make more money going her down to, let's say, Havana Harris, or even if it's a Courtney Murphy, if you already started Havana Harris and you want to get another ruck that's making cash. If Lauren Bella is named for Gold Coast this week, I'm a little bit more on board with trading in Ali Morfitt because the ruck scores are low. She's still essentially $1 million. She's 990K. But if Lauren Bella's not playing, Ali Morfitt's going to be up against Taylor Gregory, which I think she could have a decent score there. That would make me a little bit less confident trading. And I think if Ivana Harris was a ruck, I think we'd be all doing it. We'd be not even thinking about it. But as you said, she's a forward. You just sort of think, can she? She's not going to sustain 88, right? I don't think she. I don't think she will. I'm not going to say she won't. Very unlikely. So it's just the worry.
Can she average?
Yeah. Like
she's priced at 40 now.
Yeah, she could do high 50s, low 60s. Based on the way she plays, getting up the ground, because she's not traditional key forward in AFLW, right? She's not a inside 50, just marking the ball and relying on goals. She gets up the ground and sort of does everything based on what I saw, right? And if she can do that again, I think she can do that average, which if you're looking at an Ali Morfitt, she scored 57 on the weekend. And then obviously Matilda Schultz is the other one that we're looking at. So she was up against Mim Strong. Tough matchup. She beat her in the hitouts. And she gave away 5 free kicks against. 88% time on ground was also good to see. Like, she had 12 touches, 25 hitouts, right? So it's not too bad. It's the 5 free kicks against that really, really hurt the score. That could have been a 70. It could have been and one tackle. It could have been 70. I was originally looking at trading Matilda Schultz, but part of me is like, well, is this just a bad game? Is it just this is going to be the worst she'll be? And she's up against North Melbourne this week, so it'll just be Kim Rennie. But with Matilda Schultz, her first couple of games were a little bit trickier, but it does open up slightly as the season goes on. So she's got Emma King this week. Then she goes into a matchup against Gold Coast. If Lauren Bella's not back, it'll be up against a Gregory. But I think Lauren Bella will at least be back by round 3, if not this week. Then Schultz goes into West Coast. That is a nice matchup there. Melbourne, that's a good matchup. Geelong, good matchup. Then she's got St Kilda, good matchup. And then she comes up against Edmonds in round 8. So it's a good stretch after a couple, but it's right. It's because she's lost cash. The break-in will be high. She's going to keep losing cash, whereas Harris is going up. Could you just make that trade in 2 weeks' time back to a Matilda Schultz in a couple of weeks? So that's, I guess, what we're trying to work, because it's a different, it's a different game to men's fantasy. Normally we'd go, you back your premiums in, right? But this is a bit where you could go, I'll jump off my premium for 2 weeks and jump back on when they've dropped 200K and dropped a lot of money because it's really the race to get the completed team. That's what we're after. I think I'm on board with trading these rucks and bringing Havana Harris in. As you say, you could take a points hit, but you're going to gain cash. And at the end of the day, I think value is king, particularly in AFLW Fantasy over the first month of the season to get us. This is when we see the biggest price rises. We're not going to get, it is like men's, right? The best rookies are the ones that start the season or come in very, very early. We're not going to get very many rookies coming in later in the year making bulk cash quickly. So this is where we've got to really build up our team value and get as much cash as possible. So I want to get your thoughts on the ruck trade as well, because obviously you asked me about it. What are your thoughts? Because as we said, Varner Harris, not the best role, but if she can put up 50s and stuff for us, it might be fine enough for at least the next 2-3 weeks.
Yeah, I can. So I have like two options of my trades. It's am I going to trade Stannett or am I going to trade Schultz? There's my. I don't want to carry too much money in the bank. I could trade them both. I'm kind of. At the minute, I'm leaning to holding Schultz. That's just in my side. I definitely think you can do it, but it is a risk. It is a risk. Harris is playing as a forward. She could get a slight role change playing deeper forward could mean a 30 in the near future on field. Because unfortunately, I don't think Piper Dunlop, who I think the 37 is slightly unlucky just due to the fact she spent most of the second quarter off the ground with a HIA. I think she'll be a slow burn and be fine, but I don't think she's fieldable either. So you're bringing Harris into field.
Your chips in on Havana Harris, and the thing is, if she drops a 20-30 score, you're stuck with it on field, and then the cash gen stops a lot. I agree. I think you can do the ruck trade, as I said, but I think because you mentioned, I think the two issues are Stannett and Schultz or Morpher if you've got them. I think Stannett is the one that you've probably got to go, because Schultz had a tough game against Strom and 5 free kicks against, and she still scored about a 50. That is probably a 70 on most other days. And if it's better rucks, which will be coming up soon, she'll score better. Ali Morfitt, again, 4 free kicks against with a 57, was struggled after quarter time. They've got the ability to put up these 70s and better scores. If Stannett's going to have this role with 2 goals, there's not going to, it's not, as again, free kick, shout out to them. They flagged it in the preseason. We all started Stannett though because the upside was potentially there, but it's not the same midfield where she averaged in the 70s a couple of seasons ago. Ash McCarthy's there, Gabby Newton's there, Bowers is back and looking great. There's not going to be, Bowers isn't going to average well over 100, along with Gabby Newton, high 90s, high 80s, low 90s, and McCarthy's not going to average about that as well. They all can't go that, and then Stannett going 70. I just don't see all those midfielders going that big. So I think the play would be a Stannett down to a Bogue, for example, a forward rookie, and then you go Dunlop up to Harris, and if you've got hopefully enough cash, going a Centra up to Painter or a Fitzpatrick.
I don't
know if we have enough cash though to do it, but if you've got the cash, if you banked a couple $100K, that would be the ideal play if you can make that happen. But it's a tricky one. It's a very tricky one for sure. But just a couple of players quickly we'll touch on before we do wrap up. Darcy Vesio, so they were a player a lot of people started with the half-back role. Wasn't very 10 points at 3/4 time, but 18 points in last quarter, and took every kick in that they were on the ground for. Is there a play to be Is it just worth holding in the forward line? Because it's funny, Thursday night we were saying that they've got to go. We were like, Darcy Vesio, we've got to trade them out. Whereas now we got a few other issues that are more expensive. And if Vesio can just repeat a few of those 18-point quarters, they can score 50. And that's fine, the forward line for now, especially at this cheap price.
I'm currently holding. I actually thought the roll was fine. The ball was getting kicked over a head a lot, or their head a lot, sorry.
And they weren't
The ball,
switching to them at all as well. It was always
they
switching
were
to a Cordner or a Fitzgerald or someone like
they
that.
were a bit too high up the ground. It was kind of going behind them when the ball was being switched, which was a little bit annoying. But all they need is to be involved in that once or twice a game and getting a couple of those +6s, couple more kick-ins against a better side. And suddenly that's a 45-50, which is absolutely fine. I think for me, seeing Kosh's role, I kind of want to get off them now while I've still got an option down there to go to in a bug. I can do that trade. Because I don't see that. I see Ayrshire downplaying more game time, more ruck time as the year goes on. They could be an option soon as well in the ruck. But yeah, I that's kind of how I see the priority, because I think cash is very, very much king, and we want every position at like making cash. I see, looking through a lot of sides, a few people started red dots. I'm really hoping my no red dot team can win the cash game and claw some points back later.
Yeah, I hope the same as well. I think that the last point I think I do want to chat about before we wrap up and go into our trades is Zippy Fish scoring a 97 was obviously great, right? And a few people aren't going to be in the boat to worry about having to try and see if they can fit Fish on field, because a lot of people actually went her M5, which congrats. You're very, very happy with the start, making bulk cash, and you might be able to get that premium midfielder very quickly. But for me, for you, for those that started either George Patrigos, which we didn't, but we started Georgie Prasparkas at M5. Do we go a big midfielder down to field Fish and we've then got a painter on the bench? Or do you just think if it's a Riddell, Gardner, a few of these other players that went 90s, was even maybe low hundreds that was solid, we just go back them in. You don't have to wait. You don't have to worry about getting the other trade. Fish will make bulk cash on the bench, which will then be important because you can then redistribute that money across maybe two positions instead of looking for a premium midfielder.
Yeah. I think you can do it. I wouldn't be expecting 90s every week from Zippy Fish. I think if she averages 60, 65, that's a success for her. We saw last season the two highest scoring halfbacks averaged about 80, and then there was a big gap, and the next was about 70, 72. So to ask her to go much more than some very seasoned AFLW great ball user halfbacks is asking a lot. So if she drops a 55 this week, please do, like, that is kind of what you're expecting.
Gold Coast though.
Oh, 100%. Like, she can, like, her time on ground was great. She was taking all of the kick-ins, which is fantastic, which will mean her floor is fantastic, especially in some of the harder matchups where there might be more behinds being kicked. I think you definitely can do it. And the deciding factor on it is if we get any word from GWS that Zali Goldsworth is going to go back to being a full-time mid, where we know she's a 95, 100 averaging midfielder, that could be a way to get bulk cash going down from a premium to a painter or a Fitzpatrick or a cheaper midfield ruck, bringing Zippy Fish on field, and then being able to do centre to painter and Stannard to Goldsworthy is definitely an option that I am actively thinking about this week. It's not currently my trade plans, but I'm actively thinking about it.
Yeah, it's, again, something I've thought about as well. I think it's definitely a play. I think it's probably a lot easier to go for if you've got a premium mid that started a little bit poorer, like a Charlie Rowbottom, who's going to drop a decent amount of cash after a 78. I think it's a little bit more feasible to do that.
Yeah.
or if you got any, like maybe you started a Hatchard or someone like that in the midfield, you could definitely do it. But it's so hard. Like, you're not trading Marinoff, you're not trading Garner, but like Ash Riddell and Laura Gardner, who are the two other popular premium mids, they put up mid-90s. And if you look at both, Riddell copped a bit of a stoppage tag at times from Caitlin Thorne against Geelong, which restricted her stoppage scoring. And she was still able to get around the ground and get points, but it wasn't the ceiling score we thought it could have been. But she's got Port this week, which could be a great score for her coming up. And then Laura Gardner has got Gold Coast. And we saw what Ella Roberts did. And Gardner obviously didn't have a great second and third quarter. But with the transition game, which we saw some players really take advantage of on the weekend, I think better scores will come as we get into the sort of later rounds. I think that Laura Gardner is another player that's just going to benefit from that. So I just find it incredibly hard to trade either of those girls down to a painter and then go stand up to Goldsworthy and then go it makes a lot of sense. I just don't know if I can do it because I know that the one I do trade out is going to go 140 and the player I keep is going to go a 90. I can just see it, right? And that's what's hard, which I guess leads on to our current trade plans and what we're thinking about doing this week, because Lockout obviously only lifted sort of like during the day today, so we probably haven't had a huge amount of time to look at trades, and I think we'll have a lot of digestion. We'll chat about it later in the week with our pre-lockout chat. But what are you looking at doing this week, Tom, as of time recording on Monday night?
So, true to my word, the main trade that I want to do this week is Centra to Painter, just for the cash gen. To fund that, I'm going to do Ange Stannard down to Caitlin Thorne. Played some midfield time for Geelong, 470k forward. Had a 60 odd last week, based on a large amount of tackles, but I think that's a good. I think there could be a 50-55 average there, so I think that's going to be good, and that leaves me enough money in the bank to do a bench fix up and do Grace Kosh to, is it Belinda Bogue?
No.
I
how do you pronounce Bogue's the first name? That's the
Blathan
Bogue. That's right.
Blathan Bogue. Sorry, I apologise, Blathan.
Well, we know if Liam is listening in, I know that he does like the pronunciation of first and last name. So Liam, obviously, you'd let us know. Is it correct?
I apologise. I apologise for. I thought she was fantastic, so I've decided to do that. But don't rule out the midfield trade. That could happen.
Yeah. No, something that I potentially could consider as well. I'm disappointed because I actually put my trades in, like just having a bit of play around, and Stannard to Bogue, Dunlop to Harris, and Centra to Painter. I was about 74k short. So
can you do
that? I could do Fitzpatrick if I went for someone cheaper than Bogue as the trade in for Stannard. So I could do that, but I think Painter's the one I want to jump on. So, like if I was to do trades at this stage, it would be I'll just say Schultz to Harris, Schultz to Harris, Centra to Painter. Jeez, it's getting late in the night. Yeah. I'm forgetting players now. Centra to Painter, and then maybe Grace Kosh to a Bogue. Get a couple of money makers in, and maybe bank some cash for next week. But I'm going to play around with trades this week. A lot of playing around with trades, and we'll see what I do look at doing. But that'll do us for our first round review of the season. But we will be back later on in the week. Not exactly sure what day we'll be doing it this week. We'll coordinate with the Free Kick Tennessee when on air. We'll be on, and we've obviously got our final men's pre-lockout chat. But we will be doing at least a one. It could be Saturday morning as well. We'll have to see. We'll discuss it, but we'll let people know. We'll tweet it out later on the week when we're live for our pre-lockout chat. But Tom, mate, thank you for jumping on for the first round view of the season. Where can the people find you across the socials?
You can find me on X at Tom_Hales_, and good luck for round 2 and the rest of the year.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, mate. And you can find me at BAILSDT and echo those sentiments made by Tom. And you can find us at AFL Fantasy Fans on X. As I said, we'll be back later on in the week for our pre-lockout chat, answering all your questions. So we'll get obviously all the teams and everything. So a lot more information, which would be great. And the best thing about round 2 onwards is that we don't have to go looking through the teams to see who's named and where. We can look at the ins and outs, which is great. That's what we'd like about round 2 onwards. So it makes it a little bit easier for the Nuffies and me and Tom to be looking at the ins and outs.
Exactly.
There. So, but thank you for tuning in. As we said, let us know in the comments what you'd like us to call studs and duds or plus threes, minus threes. Let us know what you like, and we'll pick the best one and give you a shout out next week on the pod. But if you are listening on YouTube, please leave us a like and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Turn the little bell on as well so you know when we do go live. So if you miss our social posts that when we're going live for our pre-lockout chat or when the round review's uploaded, you turn notifications on so you do get notified when they're up. If you're listening on the pod, a 5-star rating and review would be very, very much appreciated. And we'll catch you guys later on the week for our pre-lockout chat. So thanks, everyone. Happy trading. And we'll catch you guys later in the week. See ya.
Bye.